the top. Welcome to part 2 of my Vinyl Revolution, because we get excited about the record fair happening at the Capital Brewing Co. in the ACT, specifically speaking Dairy Road, which is a great part of Canberra. It's right next to the wonderful Winterlands. There's great coffee spots there, great places to eat, especially at the Capital Brewing Co. Of course, the Broadburger section there too, which is always a great thing. And it sets up a great vibe on a Sunday. And Erica, I love these days that you guys put on.
Oh, you know what? It's a big collaboration. Capital Brewing has the most amazing range of beverages as well.
Mm.
So, they've got alcoholic, non-alcoholic, and all of the things in between that you can just, you can come and hang, listen to the great music, watch the interesting people, and have a great dig with a bevy. It's so good.
It's occurred to me,
Indoor and outdoor.
indoor and outdoor, and the smell of the burgers and the beef and all that kind of stuff is just pulsating through the place as well. It's a great day, and it's a really good day too, because it is a Sunday, and myself, I'm involved in the rugby league as well, and I love my UFC and I love my
Yeah.
sport, and you got all the different TVs around showing all the different sports as well.
Oh, well, there you go. It's got everything.
I think vinyl, Erica, for Canberrans, it's definitely a winter companion. Canberra, we get very, I won't say the word cabin fever, but we get very indoors. We stay warm, we stay cozy. I'm talking there's electric blankets involved, there's warm soup involved, there's cups of coffee. It's an indoors couple of months through that kind of core of Canberra. And to do it with vinyl as a companion, there's nothing missing.
What you're describing right now is covered with a Danish concept called hygge. It's Hygge, and it's a Danish concept that describes a feeling of cozy contentment and well-being characterized by a warm and inviting atmosphere. And it's all about embracing what you're talking about. So comfort, simple pleasures, often with your friends or your loved ones, and enjoying the moment, which is exactly what you should be doing when you're playing a record or coming to an indoor record fair, outdoor record fair at Capital Brewing.
Well, you go to those record fairs to seek those opportunities, to be able to create that into your reality. And what I love about vinyl is what it's brought into my world. And I've been around music, loved music as a kid. I work in bloody commercial radio where I hear music all day, which is great. I was very, very stubborn in what I chose for and what I went to. I'm a rock guy, a guitar guy, and I didn't really go
Yeah.
past the four walls of the stuff, raised by the whole 90s alternative scene that's being celebrated on T-shirts in 2025. But I was raised by that stuff, and I never really went past, and I had people around me saying, why don't you try this, try this, try this? And I would listen and go, yeah, okay, it's good, but it would never stick. And I used to be that guy where people used to make fun of, saying, no, he doesn't care. He doesn't listen to anything outside like Chili Peppers and Pearl Jam and stuff. Vinyl has allowed me to branch out now because of the whole extracurriculum activity of buying the thing, getting excited about the thing, spinning it, and just letting the sounds come out. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
discovered these wonderful artists like we spoke on our last episode, how I was very late to the party for More Cheaper, Be Calm. Like that's not music, that's medicine, and for me to discover
Yes.
Malcolm McLaren and all this greatness, and even Apex Twin that I bought from you guys from the last, My Vinyl Revolution record
Genius.
fair. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have done that if I didn't go down that rabbit hole of
Yes.
vinyl.
Yeah. We search with our hearts as well as our ears when it comes to vinyl records. And sound has such a connection to memory. And that's the reason why, that's why I do it, because I'm really into the feeling that I get from listening to
Mm.
music. So, you might not be in a great mood one day and you might need to thrash it out. So you stick some music on. Off you go. Maybe it's a gym session, maybe it's a session at home with the vinyl record player, but it changes your mood and it ups your mood. Usually, we all search for music that makes us feel something, and hopefully feeling better is one of the outcomes of listening to any vinyl record. Wouldn't I don't know, we were just talking about Dirty Dancing, and that's like a feel-good record of the ages.
Yeah.
You may not know the movie, you may not even know the soundtrack, but you know the trope. Like
Yes.
you know the idea of the movie is a feel-good romance with lots of dancing. Okay? Who doesn't like that?
How could you
You
be
know,
mad at
that could
Dirty
be a
Dancing?
that's right.
I
Right.
remember um with the mother of my daughter, who I was in a relationship. I remember our second date. Hungry Eyes was playing, and then we were
Oh,
just in that bubble of Hungry Eyes, and then we went back to my place to watch a movie, and that was part of it. It wasn't. I don't think it was Dirty Dancing. I think it ended up going somewhere else, but it might have been Dirty Dancing actually. But then the DVD title menu loop song was Hungry Eyes. So we're just around Hungry Eyes. And it just really started to become a soundtrack for us. I mean, it all ended up in misery 5 years later, but
but at that time you
at
had
that
hungry
time,
eyes.
and when I hear Hungry Eyes, it just takes me straight back there. And I think that's what music does. It imprints those different parts of your timeline. But vinyl seems to do it on steroids, where it becomes this. To me, and this is going to sound weird, vinyl is almost like ceremonial like.
Yes, it's a ritual.
Mm.
That's right. And with Hungry Eyes, so that's the track that was performed by Eric Carmen.
Yes.
Sometimes we do rituals with Eric Carmen albums
Really?
because we can't sell them. Yeah, can't
Ah.
sell them for anything. But that Hungry Eyes track, that was on the Dirty Dancing soundtrack.
Yeah, it was.
And
Number one
yeah,
song as
that's
well in
I mean,
'89 or something for the year. Stayed number one for a long time.
87. You were
87.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's a super smart musician along those lines as well because he involved elements of doo-wop, classic soul, and pop in that record. So that's why we're still talking about it how many years later? Because it's a classic tune that brings back past eras and
Mm.
past memories and past experiences for people.
Soundtracks are great. I love a good soundtrack. I have a stack of soundtracks. Actually picked up. You've helped me. You guys, my vinyl revolution have helped me complete my Rocky Stallone soundtrack series. I think the last
So happy to do that.
one of the last ones I actually bought Rocky. I needed 2 and 4, and you both had it the same day. So I was extra excited about that. I am now building the Rambo collection. I've actually
Oh, wow.
Rambo 4 is probably my favorite movie ever made because the soundtrack really takes it to another level. It's a beautiful soundtrack, and I mean, you think of Rambo, you think of blood and guts and goriness. It has all that, but the soundtrack is beautiful. It'll bring you to. It's brought me to tears. I'm man enough to say it's brought me to tears at times when you're just
Oh,
feeling stuff.
oh.
You put that on, and it just helps you process things. It's a great. I've been in tears while I'm at the gym. A bit of a combination between caffeine and that music, and you can end up in getting emotional. It's a beautiful soundtrack, and I found. Here's a great story for you. I found a copy in some secondhand store in Canada online, and and they didn't deliver to Australia. They only delivered to Canada and in America. And I had some friends in Philadelphia playing Night Watchman for me, and I got it delivered to their place, and they sent it to me in Canberra. And it's
Wow.
yeah, because it's out of print, and it's got the blood splatter vinyl on it, obviously. Beautiful. I've got 5, which is kind of even rare to get, but I got that one first. I bought 2 from a marketplace here in Canberra for $15 in immaculate
Yeah.
condition, and the other day I found number 3. So I've got 3 coming, and I just
Oh,
need to get number 1 now, and I've got all 5. But soundtracks are us. We were talking about Virgin Suicide in the last episode, how that was a great title for Record Store Day. And you've just inspired me. I'm going to go and do some research there. Would you be having one of those copies
you
at the
should.
record door that day?
Yes, we will be bringing them. And this soundtrack that was released in limited edition blue vinyl for
Mm.
Record Store Day also comes with a flexi. So we were talking off air about
Oh,
what a flexi is, and they were usually like little tiny 3 millimeter thick 45 sized outputs, like formats, and usually used for like promotion. So what you were saying, you found it in
Guitar
the
Magazine in
front of a
91.
magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah, guitar magazine. I've got a whale soundtrack on Flexi, like
What?
just really random whale noises.
Wow.
Yeah, look, every record collector has a part of their collection that's a bit odd, and I like,
Who needs Moby when
oh,
you've got whale sounds
well,
on Flexi?
exactly. And the more abstract you get, the more sample based you get, the more these sorts of gems feature in people's collections. So
Wow.
Pete is an electronic musician and he makes music and he puts these types of things into his music. And if you're a fan of hip hop, then breaks and beats culture, that type of that genre samples all sorts of other types of music. I'm not saying whale music. I haven't heard a hip hop track with whale music yet,
Not
but
yet.
not to say that it won't happen in the future. But I
Interesting.
forgot to tell you, the Virgin Suicides film, which
Yeah.
was the first film of Sofia Coppola, so that was her directorial
Yeah.
debut. The whole soundtrack is an original score by the French band Air.
Wow.
And they are just phenomenal. You might know the track Playground Love. So they usually do a lot of synthesized non-vocal music, which is
Instrumental
perfect
stuff.
for
Yeah.
soundtracks.
Yeah.
The Playground Love was performed, sung by Gordon Tracks, and that's the first release on the Virgin Suicides album. So, as far as a soundtrack, like soundtrack music is a massive whole other topic that we could talk about for days, I reckon.
Yeah.
But this one is falls into like the abstract future jazz, ambient down tempo bucket. Really
Wow.
unusual sounds for a soundtrack, but it kind of fits in with the experiential thing that you want from a soundtrack. Like that's what I want when I listen to a soundtrack.
Oh.
And library music, which is also another whole topic, that kind of partners with soundtrack music in the non-vocal, experiential sound library type experience. Whereas, if you look at Guardians of the Galaxy, which we also have on vinyl
Mm.
usually, that is a collection of classic tracks that may or may not be featured in the movie, but they're on the soundtrack. So, like the Jordanaires and things like that.
Absolutely. And you mentioned film score, and there's another thing too. You get the original soundtrack where you can have like all the commercial songs, but you can get a film score. And get this. This one I'll share with you. I'm excited to share this with you. It took me a year. It took a year to arrive. It took a year to
Which
arrive,
one?
and I made contact with some random record store in Adelaide, and it was a year ago, probably a year ago to this time a year ago. And get this, okay, my first ever CD, let alone first ever soundtrack as a young kid, which I was obsessed with in 1989. The official film score, not the soundtrack, the film score was released right before COVID in 2020, but it was for the movie, the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie,
Oh, so great.
right? From 89, the first one with the animatronics, and the one that was actually a bit darker. That was the combination between more so the dark comic book opposed to the cartoon series, where they made the sequel, The Secret of the Use, which was a bit more kid friendly. It was more linked towards the cartoon, but this was like a dark thing.
Oh,
But the music in there is beautiful, beautiful by a guy called De Cruz, John De Cruz, and I remember when they first when it was first released back in 2020 for the first time. It was a limited pressing, and I didn't really have a vinyl setup going then, but I liked the idea. I found a random one which I bought and paid for. And then I went through this whole toing and froing, a year's worth of email updates with this company saying, look, this American company is saying it's going to come, but look, if you're happy to cancel, you can cancel. But I was like, nah, I'll stick with it. I'll stick with it. And I stuck with it for more than a year. And then it finally arrived last month.
oh, so
And I
good.
have a rare copy of the original score, and the artwork is by Eastman and Laird. Like, it's more of a comic kind of, but it's It's a double vinyl. It's got a green and a red one, and it's got a great little inlay in there. And the music is beautiful. It's just outstanding. It's just so illustrative in that film. That's the great things about these film scores, opposed to the soundtracks. Is doesn't have any like top 20 commercial hits. It's just the music that played through, and you can almost relive the movie in your head while you've got that spinning. It's amazing to have in the background.
Well, see, this is where the appreciation of vinyl goes beyond the sound level. What you were just mentioning in regards to like the inlays and the inserts, and
Mm.
what we're talking about with record store titles that are pressed on colored vinyl. These are the wonderful and different editions that you can search for when you go to a record store or when you come to a record fair like ours with range. Because, for example, you might start off with a secondhand record, and buying secondhand records is fantastic. Like that's where
Yeah.
most of us start.
Yes.
We've For the Capital Record Fair that's coming up on May the 18th, we've got 20 new crates of secondhand Japanese pressings heading to Canberra. It's going to be mental.
Wow.
And Japanese pressings are exactly what we're talking about in regards to that really high level or that high standard of physical production of the cover. So, being an ex-graphic designer, I
Mm.
really appreciate a well-designed cover with a great visual on the front, but I also love the inserts that Japanese pressings have. So,
Yes.
they'll generally put a pressing in and they'll have one side, yeah, maybe like a lyrics sheet, for example, they'll have it in Japanese, and then on the opposite page, it'll be in English, and then they'll have photographs of the artists and different insights
Yes.
into maybe the making of the album. And
Love
then
it.
on the outside, there's a paper, almost like a belt that goes around it. I think it's called an
Yes.
obi, and I think in Japanese traditional fashion, the obi is the belt that goes around. Uh, God, what are the Japanese coats called? Um,
I know the
it's
ones
completely
like the snow coats, the
no,
warm.
the traditional ones with the
Oh, like
beautiful
this. I
pattern.
see what you're saying, like the samurai ones almost.
Yeah,
That's seen
what
in
are
that kind
they
of
called?
space.
A
I
kimono. A
Yeah.
kimono.
Who is that band?
Yeah.
The Japanese band that you introduced me to?
Oh, Kikagaku
And
Moyo.
and I
Oh,
cleaned yours out one of the last record fairs. I think I bought four of them. I got four of them, and they had
yes.
there, and yeah, they're amazing, and they have exactly what you mentioned. They have the belt with the Japanese language symbols in there, and it's like a Japanese pressing, which they've
Yes.
just gone the extra mile, don't they? The Japanese.
They're so fanatical about it, and we love that. All the production values of a normal record, or like a non-Japanese record, could be, you focus on making the sound great,
Mm.
you master it properly, all that good stuff. The Japanese just go to the nth level, and it's insane. I love
Speaking
that. I
s-
really do.
Speaking of cleaning out, I cleaned yours out last time too with Mogwai. I think I've got about three or four different Mogwai titles. I discovered Mogwai, and then that's the great thing about the record fairs, especially the My Vinyl Revolution record fairs. The ones that you guys do is you can discover. So I've recently discovered Mochiba, and then
Oh,
I've done Big Calm. That's become medicine for me now. But I'd love to now go elsewhere and go a little deeper, a little further now in the Mochiba catalogue. And then all of a sudden you go to a record fair and you might find one or two pressings in there. Yep, they're coming with me.
absolutely.
you know?
And the whole great thing about going to a record fair is you do it in real time. So
Yeah.
you might not feel like talking to people when you go to a record fair, but then again, you might get into conversations with people. And you might say, okay, well, let's start with Morcheeba. Where can I go from there? And,
Mm.
is there a secondhand equivalent of Morcheeba? Is there an artist from the 1970s that you can find on a secondhand record for, maybe half the price of a more cheaper new release? Well, at My Vinyl Revolution, Capital Brewing, we have loads of new arrivals and represses of classic albums, but we've got heaps of secondhand records. So, you don't have to have the experience when you're going to like a really small record bar, like, just one bank of records in a shop, for example.
Mm.
There's there's a lot more. There's probably, I don't know, 8,000 records.
Wow.
I don't even know how many we have, but what we try and do is bring as many as we can. And we have records that are starting from $15. So records for all price points,
Yeah.
all, secondhand, new, old, collectible. We've got all of that. And even cassettes if we can fit them in.
Yes, it's such a great going through those secondhand crates. I've found some gems in there. I think one of the first fairs that you guys put on, I found Trick Finger 2, which is John Frusciante, the Chili Peppers guitar player's alias with his Electronic Jungle alias album. And I think it's out of print. I don't think
Yes.
you can't find any, and you guys just had it sitting there casually. Yeah, it was crate 3 in the second hand section, and I found it, and it was like that made my week. You know,
Oh, that's so good. Well, see, you got to be in it to win it, don't you?
absolutely, and
It's
the
you've
gems.
actually got to physically go to record events, and going to one which has as many records as we do there, your chances of finding what you're after specifically, they really go up. Like so for this May 18th event that we've got
Mm,
going on, we're bringing a copy of. I know that this is going to speak into your wheelhouse a bit. We've got a sealed copy of Bad Motorfinger by
wow,
Soundgarden.
wow,
Yes, a 2003 pressing, still
wow.
sealed. So for those of you who aren't Soundgarden fans, Bad Motorfinger, it's the third studio album by the band, and it was released in 1991, I
So it was
think.
pre Black Hole
But
Sun.
yeah, pre-Black Hole. But this album, that is the album that you need to get if you want to know about Soundgarden, or
Yeah.
you want to go, okay, out of all of their albums, which one?
Where do I
Because
start?
in my humble opinion, Bad Motorfinger captures the band clicking on all cylinders, like it's got
Yeah,
focus, it's got cohesion, and it's got the intensity that you love with Soundgarden.
yeah.
Um,
It's a great
like
album.
it's got tracks on it called, do you remember Jesus Christ Pose?
No.
Oh, you've got look it up on YouTube because the film clip is psychedelic, trippy,
Wow.
hardcore grunge. And this was the first time Soundgarden actually appeared on my radar, and I couldn't stop listening to them after I saw that track. Chris Cornell is outstanding. I- His vocal performance is outstanding on that track. But Bad Motorfinger also has Rusty Cage, which was a commercial success for them,
Mm.
and Outshined. Oh,
Oh, I
it's
know
so
Outshined.
good, that album.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, we've got a few grunge titles. We've got a sealed copy of Vitalogy by Pearl Jam,
Ooh.
and yeah, still sealed.
How
It's
many
just
how many copies of that do you have?
these
Just
are
asking for
one
a
copy
friend.
only. Yeah, asking for a friend. I'll tell him or them. We because
Vitalogy is a great
we
album
buy
too.
it's
And the
so good. Well,
packaging
this
is
is
like an old storybook, which just takes you into the aesthetic, you know what I mean? And I can't imagine that on vinyl. Wow.
yes. Well, actually, I saw an article about the book which was which what was titled Vitalogy. So I think they
Mm.
just took the whole concept of the cover from the actual physical book and then made an album. But
And they've got
like
that
that
song.
that
They've got that song, which is one of my favorite
yeah.
Pearl Jam songs called Spin the Black Circle, which
Oh,
is
I
based
was
on
going to
vinyl.
mention that.
Sorry, I took the steam.
Yes. No, it's so good. That is such a good track. That also on that album is Better Man.
Yes. Better Man, Nothing Man, Daughter,
Uh-huh.
Corduroy, This Is Not For You. Like, that's the whole album. There's
Oh,
not one dud song on that album. It's a
no,
beautiful
I
album.
think it's my favorite one. Yeah.
It's a
I mean,
beautiful
it's
album.
different from the 10 era thing that they had, but
Yeah.
and it's experimental, but it's still that grunge rock, like the aggressive, got a punk rock edge, hardcore punk, alternative rock thing that they're so good. They're so good for. I
Oh,
mean, with Pearl Jam, I also love the soundtrack that they did to Into the Wild, but this is
yes.
them.
I've got
This is
that.
vintage Pearl Jam.
Yeah, Eddie
Oh, you've
Vedder.
got Into the Wild?
I have. Yeah, look. To be honest with you, it's probably a bootleg copy, but
Doesn't matter. Oh, well,
it's
actually it
it's
does, but
it,
it
it
doesn't.
does it does, but I mean it does, but it doesn't. But it just brings that music to life, through my system. That music is brilliant, and I was fortunate
Oh,
enough to see Eddie Vedder play an acoustic set. He did an Australian tour acoustically, just solo in Canberra, front row, and he pretty much plays that whole soundtrack with his acoustic guitars and his Strat, really laid like raw. And he'd done all those songs, and it was a highlight of my life so far. And God rest his soul, he mentioned Soundgarden. A year later, in the same location, the Canberra Royal Theatre, in the same seat almost, I saw Chris Cornell do the same acoustic set a year later.
Really?
Yeah, within 2 years. I've still got the stubs at home. And I was only
that's just made the hair on my arm rise. Unbelievable.
It was brilliant.
They're both.
He did a song of it. He did a cover of Imagine too, acoustically. But everyone can do Imagine because it's Imagine's Imagine. But the Chris Cornell version of that. He also did a cover of Billie Jean by Michael Jackson.
Oh, really?
Which was beautiful. And he did like Black
Oh,
Hole. He'd done a lot of the classic Soundgarden songs acoustified. But going back to Eddie, like he was just amazing. And if you're into Eddie Vedder, his second album called The Ukulele Hits, which I've also got on vinyl. I've got his whole catalogue on vinyl.
Yeah.
Track 2, called I Sleep By Myself Tonight, he wrote that in Canberra. He came out and said, "Hey, I wrote this last night on my porch in the hotel." Yeah. And he played it for the first time. And it ended up on his second album, Eddie Vedder's Ukulele Hits or something, whatever it's called. But there's a song that was conceived, born and raised in Canberra on there, which is great for us Canberrans.
Well, there you have it. I think Pete met Eddie Vedder by mistake at a gig in Canberra, but you might have to ask him.
Who's that?
Paraphrase Pete, who also runs the My Vinyl Revolution record fair.
The other half.
My other half, yeah. He was speaking to this. Well, I'll tell you. He can tell you more in detail when you meet him again. But he was at a gig and he was talking to a guy about the gig that they were both seeing, and his nephew was in the crowd pointing up with this shocked look on his face. And Pete's having a chat with this guy, and the guy left, and then his nephew comes up and says, "Did you know that was Eddie Vedder?"
Oh, wow.
And he's like, "Who's that?"
Wow.
This is way back in the day.
Yeah, they played here in 95. Yeah.
I think they like
Exhibition
Canberra.
Park. Yeah. And Flea, because obviously his dad lived in Canberra at the time. He came up on stage with them and did like an encore with them and stuff. So,
that's
speaking
awesome.
of songs, Chili Peppers have a song called Walkabout, which was conceived in Canberra as well. So, Pearl Jam, Chili Peppers songs are beautifully created in Canberra, and what will be beautifully created in Canberra on May 18th on the Sunday from 11 o'clock, the My Vinyl Revolution record fair, which is always great to have with the Capra Brewing Co. on board, having it in there and housing us for the day. That's another episode. That's a big one. It's an exciting one.
My God.
Yeah, we're 30 minutes this one was. We snuck it in the timer because we're always chasing the time with these episodes. We've beaten it this time.
That's great. So do you want to, is that enough for the podcast? Do you want to do just the two, or do you want to do another one?
I can go one more. I've got one more in me if you want to go one more.
Sure.
Let's do one more.
Okay,
all right,
let's
listen
do
out
one more.
for part 3 coming up soon.